Okay. Does this work? I think it does. Okay. Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. This is Kim Reads and Reviews. Today I'll be doing the Booktube Newbie Tag. So we'll start with the first question. Why did you start this channel? I started this channel because reading is a hobby that I've started to take a little bit more seriously over the last few years. It also seems to be a really lovely corner of the internet. I've spent some time watching Booktube, being a consumer of Booktube over the years, and yeah, it seems like if I'm going to join any corner of the internet, this is probably a really good one to start with. So the second question is, what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to Booktube? I suppose my own personality, my own life, everybody's personality and life on Booktube seems to be very different from each other. So I can bring glimpses of my own life to this, and I look forward to sharing that. I have 2 cats and a partner who will probably make very frequent appearances on this channel. What are you most excited about for this channel? I'm most excited to share my thoughts, and then I'm also just very excited to have a creative outlet, an additional one added to my life. This is a very kind of new thing for me, making videos and all that, so I'm excited just to kind of peruse this corner and just see where it goes. Fourth question is, why do you love reading? I love reading because of the process of reading, honestly. I enjoy starting a new book, getting to know the writing style, the characters, the plot, and there's no better feeling than reading a book you're genuinely really loving and highlighting certain passages or prose that I thought were really great or really well done, or just kind of had an emotional impact on me. I think that that feels really good. And then also with books that I don't really enjoy. It's an oddly satisfying process to read a book I don't enjoy and to kind of like compile my thoughts on why I didn't enjoy it, and seeing if other people shared similar thoughts. And it's a really good feeling to know my reasons for either loving a book or not enjoying a book, and seeing somebody else have those very same thoughts and be like, okay, like I'm not alone in this. So yeah. So the fifth question is, what book or series got you into reading? You know, when I was younger, my mom had gotten me Nancy Drew books. I also have very fond memories of going to our local library with my mom and my brother when I was really little. And at the library that I went to, they had this tree. It was like this, obviously not a real tree within the library. It was just this plastic tree in the kids section that kids can play around and sit under and read and whatever. And when I was younger and going there with my brother, we just thought this tree was massive, and so we try and climb it, play on it, and while my mom checked out books for us, or we looked at books after, it was just like a whole experience for my brother and I. And going back to that same library when I was older, it's funny because obviously I'm much taller than the tree now, but it's just interesting because it felt just so big when I was younger, and so seeing it now as an adult, it's a totally different experience. So I think, you know, just the process of going to the library, making it something that my mom and my brother did together, it's always kind of held a special place for me. What questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? I'm always interested to see if books that they've deemed their absolute favorite of all time, if it still is, if they were to reread it now, because your reading tastes change over time. Like my favorite books of all time from 3 years ago are certainly not going to still hold that status for me because my reading tastes have changed. I've just read a lot more now. So yeah, I think that that's what I would ask, is if they've reread their favorite books of all time, and if it still stands or still sits in that category for them, and if it does, why? If it doesn't, why not? What challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I think, so I mentioned before that this is just a very new experience for me. It's a new creative outlet, and it's not one that I've ever done before. So most of my creative outlets are very not on the internet. So I like to paint, I like to draw, I like to, of course, read as a creative outlet. I like to write, I like to journal. So those are all very much things that don't require necessarily being on the internet. And so I think recording myself and sharing myself and my thoughts and my opinions on the internet is going to be a challenge for me. It's going to be something that's really going to require me to step outside of my comfort zone, but I really hope has a positive impact on me, and like I hope I can just join this community and feel part of a community, and I think that that'll kind of make the challenge of it a little bit easier. So because yeah, I think just sharing parts of yourself to other people online especially can be really difficult to do, at least for me anyways. It's very much outside my comfort zone, so that's probably going to be the most challenging. But then also probably just the editing piece and figuring that out, and just kind of getting used to this online world of Booktube and YouTube. And no matter how much I've watched Booktube, I'm sure that there will be a variety of challenges that I didn't anticipate. When did you start reading? I answered this a little bit earlier, but obviously I started reading when I was younger with my mom and brother, and obviously going to school, but I took it more seriously when I started going to university and just, you know, finding something to fill my time on my bus rides, during study breaks, things like that. Like when I needed a mental break, I would often reach for whatever book I was reading at the time. Where do I read? I read in my living room or in my bed. When my partner and I go to bed, we go to bed at the same time, but I don't always fall asleep right away. So I'll stay up and read a chapter of my book, or a few chapters of my book. And then literally sometimes I'll be falling asleep and my e-reader will fall on my face and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'll turn it off and then go to bed. But yeah, those are two of my spots that I typically read. What kind of books do you like to read? I will read a variety. I'm still trying to get into and dabble in fantasy and romance, and I'm tailoring my tastes more so this year with my romance than I am fantasy. Fantasy I'm still trying to dabble in, but I typically enjoy isolated, atmospheric thrillers, general fiction, anything that has a heavy, darker tone to it. I like to read fiction books that cover a variety of topics, but typically hone in on what I like to call the complexities of being a human. They will often have really great commentary or just have a general story that's a really good, you know, symbolic format of being human and just trying to go through life. Things with heavier topics, atmospheric, a tone that may be a little bit darker. If I want a break from it, I'll turn to romance. And yeah, sometimes there's a niche kind of subplot that I really enjoy reading, especially when it's done very, very well. When we're following along with a character and they're in a situation or have a mindset that they're stuck in that is really not healthy, not conducive for them, and they meet somebody in the story, another character, who shows them a side of themselves that they didn't know existed, where they're like, oh, I do have the capacity for healthy relationships. I have the capacity to do something better than this environment I'm stuck in. Have the capacity for feelings of love for another person. So it's this niche little subplot that I've been noticing I really enjoy when it's done really well. Those can be some really hard-hitting, difficult reads, but so beautiful at the same time when it's done really well. So what does your book collection look like? So behind me is my book collection. There's a bottom shelf here that you can't see, but it spans a few different genres. I have some thrillers, mysteries, general fiction type books, romances. Much of my partner's nonfiction is a little bit behind me too. It's a good variety. But yeah, that's all the questions that are for the Booktube Newbie Tag. I really look forward to being in this corner of the internet. I am really excited to pursue this creative outlet. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for hanging out. I really look forward to reading some new books, discovering some really cool recommendations, having some really awesome conversations. And yeah, I hope everybody has a great evening.